are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, February 14th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So I want to start off the show by talking about Brandon Ayuk's cryptic social media post. So we'll talk about that in a second. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the teams that have the best chance of dethroning the Chiefs next year as they try to go for a three-peat. Is something that they are talking about already. So we'll get into that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about the Travis Kelce, Andy Reid altercation on the sideline during the Super Bowl. I'll give you my thoughts on that. I know I did touch upon it briefly when talking about the game, but I just wanted to talk about that today. And then we'll take a look at the free agent class for this year, talk about the top free agents that will be on the market, unless, maybe they're franchise tagged. So, that's basically the rundown for the show, because obviously, the free agency, we're in the off season now, so this is what we're going to be talking about. Speculation on where certain guys can go. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Brandon Ayuk. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he posted on his Instagram something, and also there were some other things to come out. So I think his brother said something, and also his girlfriend said something, that this was like the last time that he would be playing in Levi's Stadium. So then he goes and posts on social media, if I could pull it up here. He posted on his Instagram story, "Don't forget what got you there." So Brandon Ayuk is entering the final year of his rookie contract. And there's a lot of speculation on, what's going to happen. Are the 49ers going to be able to retain him? And his base salary for 2024 is $14.1 million. He did indicate that he wants to stay with the 49ers if it's the right move. And he basically said, winning a championship is a priority. Wants a long-term contract that gives him more than, obviously, his current salary. If they work on a contract negotiation and that ends up, falling through, there's a possibility that he could be traded. And we've seen that, with certain guys. We've seen that with A.J. Brown. We saw that with Tyreek Hill. It's possible we could see that here with Brandon Ayuk. I think what his brother said, it was something about, I know it was about him only having 3 catches. And, him and Deebo Samuel both had 3 catches in the Super Bowl. McCaffrey had 8, and George Kittle only had 2. So, we talk about all these playmakers, and, McCaffrey had the best game out of everybody. But, Ayuk, Deebo, and George Kittle, they, really didn't have a huge impact in the game. Obviously they made big plays at certain moments. I mean, George Kittle had the 4th down catch that set up the the Juwan Jennings touchdown reception. But yeah, I mean Ayuk had some big catches. Debo was obviously in and out because he was dealing with that hamstring injury. But yeah, I mean they really did not have big games. Um, yeah, so we'll see what happens. This is going to be an interesting situation. Um, obviously, the 49ers are going to want to try to keep Ayuk because, he had a great season this year. And, it's just, I get players want to get paid. But also, when he's saying his desire is to win a championship, I think, the 49ers are one of the few teams that could still, next year they're going to have most of their players from this year. The free agents that they have, there's nobody really big that's going to be that's going to become a free agent with the 49ers, at least from what I saw. So this is one of the teams that still, is going to be at the top when trying to contend for a championship next year. So if Brandon Ayuk wants to, win a championship, I think really at this moment, his best choice is to stick with the 49ers, unless the Chiefs come calling and he goes to the Chiefs. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's where you should stay. I mean, the 49ers, they could have won this game. It's just, there were some miscues that kind of, led to the Chiefs cashing in. And, yeah, I mean, it really all goes back to, I think, the muff punt. That really just changed the whole complexion of the game. And I know people talking about, oh, well, the 49ers, how they handled overtime wasn't good, and they didn't know the overtime rules. I don't know. I feel like I'm in the minority with that. I just think, look, you got the ball, you got points out of it. I mean, yeah, if you go for it and don't get it, you're probably going to lose anyways because Mahomes is going to take it right down the field and get in the field goal range, and that's going to be how you lose that way. And then people are going to say, oh, why didn't they take the points? It just, I don't know. I understand Kyle Shanahan's logic. You get the ball, you score 7, and then, you make the Chiefs go the length of the field to try to beat you or to try to tie it, even though they said they'd go for 2. So it really would have came down to that if the 49ers, went for it and got a touchdown out of it. But yeah, it would have came down to the Chiefs going down the field. They would have went down the field, scored a touchdown. They would have went for 2, and that would have decided the game. That would have decided the game. Because I know yesterday I was saying, so if they went for 2 and they got it and went ahead, would that have been, yeah, so that would have been the end of the game, which makes sense. But I just wasn't 100%. I just wasn't sure because, it's the first time that they were playing under these new rules. But, yeah, I mean, listen, it's for Brandon Ayuk, yeah, I mean, only having 3 catches in the Super Bowl, yeah, I mean, you want to make more of an impact. But the 49ers, their game plan was Christian McCaffrey, and that's who they ran their offense through the whole game. That was their game plan. They didn't really deviate from it. So, yeah, I mean, you want to make more of an impact, but it just didn't happen that way. But, again, there's very few teams when you look at the landscape of the NFL that you could say that's a championship team. And listen, the 49ers, they've gotten to this point a lot recently. It's just they keep falling short. And I mean, I don't know what else you could do because the roster's loaded. You got playmakers all over the place on defense and on offense. Now, you could look at the quarterback position, and there was definitely a difference between Brock Purdy. Definitely is a difference between Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes, and we talked about that. Patrick Mahomes being this generational talent, one of the all-time greats, and then you got Brock Purdy, who is a solid quarterback, but is he going to be the guy? He's not going to elevate the guys around him. The guys around him are going to elevate him. Now, Brock Purdy I think, has been the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had since he's taken over as the 49ers head coach. But, again, you look at some of the quarterbacks that he's coached, and, yeah, I mean, C.J. Beathard, Nick Mullins, I mean, those guys are backup quarterbacks. that won games this year. I know C.J. Beathard won a game with the Jaguars. Did Nick Mullins win a game with the Vikings? Because I mean, they I think I don't know. Did they win when did Nick Mullins win a game with the Vikings this year? I mean, because he you know he put up numbers, but well, I mean he threw interceptions a lot, but still like um I'll have to look. But anyways, yeah. So Brock Purdy again is the best quarterback that they have had in the system. But oh yeah, they did well. I guess when they put him in against the Raiders, they won. But oh yeah, yeah, they pretty much lost every game that Nick Mullins played in. Well, pretty much every game he started. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean again, with the 49ers, yeah, I mean I don't know what else you could do. I mean I guess like they could have gotten their receivers and George Kittle more involved. I mean Jawan Jennings had a good game, you know. I don't know. I guess that's just how the game went. Um, but the 49ers, listen, at some point, a lot of these guys are going to want to get paid, and you're going to have to do that. And you're not going to be able to keep everybody. So, I mean, if Ayuk sticks around, unless he wants to be traded, um, this could be like the last chance you have with all these guys together to go out and try to win a championship next year. So, and yeah, it's unfortunate that this team just keeps coming up short every year. Um, they are a very good team. Definitely had a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. It's just it was that team once again that took them down. And with next year, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, listen, they could have very easily not have made it to the Super Bowl. They could have lost to the Packers. They could have lost to the Lions. I mean, the Lions they were losing by 17 points, but they came back. And again, they came up short. And it's and this again, this is not the first time that we're seeing a receiver, posting something on social media and making it known that they want to get paid. Because we see star receivers get traded. And also Devontae Adams, too. Devontae Adams, another one. I said Tyreek Hill. I said A.J. Brown. Devontae Adams is another one. Got traded. So, and those three guys that I mentioned before, Devontae, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, those receivers are better than Brandon Ayuk. I mean, Ayuk is one of the better receivers in the NFL, but I wouldn't say he's at the level of those guys. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be something that we got to keep an eye on. But unless there's a team that maybe comes calling and gives an offer the 49ers can't refuse. I mean, I don't know. If I'm Brandon Ayuk, I think you stick with San Francisco. You run it back next year, and you see what happens. But I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting offseason. And again, we're not even like a week in. We're in the first week after the Super Bowl, and already we're starting with this. But it's just I'm not a fan of that. You're like calling out your team like that, but you know what? I guess that's just what these players do sometimes. And we'll see what the 49ers can do to try to make sure that he stays. But again, it's something we'll keep an eye on throughout the offseason. Listen, as a Giant fan, they need receivers. So listen, come on down if you want to go to a different team, because the Giants need all the help they can get. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this situation. Yeah, because it's interesting. Because yeah, you had his girlfriend saying this is the last game we're going to play at Levi's Stadium. You had his brother posting something about his stats from the Super Bowl. You have him posting something. So there's something going on there. And look, it's a long off season, so we'll see how this all develops. Um, as we move along here. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when talking about this. Again, let me know what you guys think about this topic. Um, so when we come back from we're gonna take our first break. When we come back from our first break, we are then going to discuss who can dethrone the Chiefs. Now, obviously, we just talked about the 49ers, so you could probably add them to the list. Um, but I'll talk about the teams that have like the best chance to dethrone the Chiefs as they are trying to go for that three-peat. They're already talking about that. So we'll talk about the teams that have the best chance to take them down next year. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about what teams have the best chance of dethroning the Kansas City Chiefs next season. So they're already talking about three-peating. I know I said that. I was thinking about doing a topic of, just talking about that. But I know I literally said it's too early to talk about it because the Super Bowl just ended. Now, the easy answer to this question is nobody. Nobody can dethrone them. But there are teams that can, even though, a lot of people will probably say there's nobody at this point. Because, again, already, I'm seeing TikToks of, all right, Joe Burrow is going to be the guy to do it next year. Now, that is the team that I give the best chance to dethrone the Chiefs because they've done it before. Now, last year, they lost to them in the championship game. But again, that game came down to the wire. Harrison Butker kicked the game-winning field goal. I know that Mahomes got pushed out of bounds, the play before that, which led to a 15-yard penalty that set up the Butker field goal. The Bengals, they were trailing in that game. They came back. It was a close game. It was a nail-biter. But the Chiefs, they won that game, and they went on to the Super Bowl to beat the Eagles. But this year, we didn't see Burrow versus Mahomes because Burrow got hurt, the wrist injury left him, and I mean, he dealt with that, that ended his season. And he also had the calf injury that was limiting him early on in the season. But once Burrow got healthy before the wrist injury, the Bengals looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. Jamar Chase had that 3-touchdown game against the Cardinals. They went into San Francisco and they beat the Niners by a couple of scores. They looked really good. And then it just, Burrow gets hurt. And it was that whole mysterious thing with, he wasn't on the injury report, and it was weird. And then he gets hurt in the Ravens game, and he's out for the year. And Jake Browning did a good job. They were up by 10 points against the Chiefs in Arrowhead when they played him, but they just couldn't finish the job there. They still finished with the winning record. It's just, with Burrow, if Burrow was healthy the whole season, this team would have made the playoffs. Absolutely. And if they did, who knows what would have happened. But I think going into next year, that is the best. That is the team that has the best chance of dethroning the Chiefs, because again, they've done it before, and Burrow's had success against Mahomes in the regular season as well. Up until the AFC Championship game last year, Patrick Mahomes could never beat Joe Burrow, even though literally every game was close, every single game. Every game has been decided by, I think every game has been decided by 3 points. So, for people saying Burrow owns Mahomes, I mean, look at the games. That's why when everyone's saying, oh, Tom Brady, owns Mahomes, that's why he'll never be, on his level. Well, again, I mean, yes, the Super Bowl with the Bucs, that was a blowout. But you look at the AFC Championship game, that game went to overtime, and Mahomes never saw the ball. And you look at the other games too. I mean, one of them was by 7. I know that the last year when they played in the regular season, the Chiefs they won by a couple of scores. But literally, the first meeting was between Brady and Mahomes was 43-40. I mean, come on. So, you look at now, but obviously Brady is not playing anymore. Now, if Brady was still playing, maybe you look at him and say that's the other guy that has the best chance of taking down Mahomes. But yeah. So you look at Burrow and the Bengals. That's the team that has the best chance to do it. Because you look at the other teams in the AFC. I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They both lost close games to Mahomes in the postseason this year. But Lamar Jackson can't beat Patrick Mahomes, except from the one time a couple years ago. But the Chiefs kind of beat themselves in that game. Again, still give the Ravens credit for winning the game, capitalizing on the Chiefs' mistakes. But let's be real here. The Chiefs threw away that game. And if Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't fumble, Lamar Jackson would be winless against Patrick Mahomes at this moment. Then you got Josh Allen. Josh Allen and the Bills. They kind of own the Chiefs in the regular season. But in the postseason, completely different. Chiefs own them. Chiefs own them. Those guys keep falling up short. Coming up short. But you know what? You got to throw them in there. I mean, if the Ravens run it back with their team, and again, if the Ravens don't make a couple of mistakes, that game could be very different. The Ravens defense held the Chiefs to 0 points in the second half. Shut them out. Zay Flowers doesn't fumble. If Lamar Jackson doesn't throw a pick into triple coverage, I mean, it's a different game. So the Ravens, they could have very easily won that. But again, that's just Patrick Mahomes against these guys. They just can't. They can't beat them. Can't beat Mahomes in big moments. So if the Bills run it back, healthy squad next year, I mean, you got to give them a shot. Because again, they've come close in the playoffs. It's just they can't get it done. Can't get over that hump. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens only lost by 7. If Zay Flowers doesn't fumble, Lamar Jackson doesn't throw that pick, the Ravens run the ball a little bit more, different game. But again, it's a lot of ifs. But again, that's what I'm saying. These are the teams that have the best shot. And let's look at the other teams. I mean, those are probably the 3. But then you also have, other teams as well, like also in their division. The Chargers with Harbaugh now, that's going to be an interesting situation. We'll see, how quick the turnaround's going to be. I mean, listen, you already got the franchise quarterback, and we'll see how that's something else to keep an eye on during the offseason is the Chargers cap situation. And, and I know I've talked about this already, but, who could possibly be, cut, released. I think I saw something Khalil Mack could be traded. So there's going to be changes to the roster. And we'll see. But listen, Harbaugh has won a lot as a head coach. And I feel like he's going to turn this team around. Because, listen, again, you have the franchise quarterback. The defense needs a lot of work. So we'll see. And listen, Justin Herbert has beaten Mahomes in Arrowhead, but that was one time. Every game between those two guys is very close. Pretty much every time. they play against each other. But I'm not gonna say they can dethrone the Chiefs because they have some things they have to work out. Um, you know, I listen. The Raiders beat them on Christmas, but I don't think that's going to be the team that's going to do it. Because they got stuff they got to work out too. They got to find a quarterback. The Broncos, the same thing. Even though the Broncos, they were another team that beat the Chiefs this year. Then you got the Dolphins. Um, the Chiefs beat them twice. Now, a healthy Dolphins squad, it was pretty much that in Germany, and we saw what happened. The Chiefs won that. I mean, I don't know, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, look at what the Jets did to them this year. I mean, they only lost by 3 points, and that was with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. And Mahomes almost threw 3 picks if it wasn't for a penalty. So, I mean, a healthy Aaron Rodgers, maybe a better offensive line, weapons. I mean, maybe. But, again, I'm just throwing that out there. You look at the other 2 divisions, the AFC South and the AFC North. I mean, again, Ravens, Bengals we talked about. I don't think the Steelers. Browns with Deshaun Watson, maybe. But that is if Deshaun Watson, somehow, becomes the Deshaun Watson before everything, in the Texan days. But I don't see that happening. So, I mean, they have a good defense. If Nick Chubb can come back and be healthy, we'll see. But yeah, it's I don't really see it. But then you got the AFC South. You got the Texans, who are up and coming. You got the Colts. Even with Anthony Richardson getting hurt, Gardner Minshew did a nice job. It's kind of funny. Last year, the Colts finished with a terrible record. One of their wins was against the Chiefs early on in the season with Matt Ryan. You forget about that. But that doesn't mean that they're going to dethrone them. No, I still think the Chiefs are better than. We know that, but I'm saying I still think that they're probably a little bit away from being legit contenders. But we'll see what it's like next year, because they are. You figure they're going to be better. And I think. The Texans will be playing the Chiefs next year, so we'll see. We'll see that matchup, how Stroud does against Mahomes for the first time. Then you got the Jags, who kind of fell off, but Mahomes has beaten Trevor Lawrence. The 3 times that he's played against him. The Titans are rebuilding. So yeah, if you really look at it, I know I just ran through pretty much every team in the AFC. On the NFC side, the 49ers, they came close. The Eagles came close. Because now you got teams that they can meet in the Super Bowl. The NFC is going to be interesting next year because, you got the 49ers. The Eagles, they had a disastrous. Wow. I did not say that right. Disastrous end to their season. So, I mean, we'll see what they're like with their coordinators. Wow, I don't even know what to say, how I just pronounced that. But, so they just had a really bad end to their season. And you figure they're going to be better. I mean, the Cowboys. I know I keep throwing the Cowboys in there, but what do we expect from them? Probably the same thing. I mean, look, the Vikings. They get Kirk Cousins back. I mean, see, now I'm just talking about but again, all these teams have to make the Super Bowl if they play the Chiefs. If the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl, But listen, the Packers beat them. So, it's look. The easiest thing to say is no. There's nobody that's going to dethrone the Chiefs next year, but we'll see. but you figure the Chiefs are going to be better because, they're going to want to improve that, receiving core, especially with, the kind of regular season that they had with all the drops. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think really the teams on the AFC side that have the best chance, I know two of them, well, all of them have lost to the Chiefs over the years in the playoffs. The Ravens most recently, and the Bills most recently this year. But I think the Bengals have the best shot, and then you have the Ravens and the Bills as well. But only time will tell. We still got a long way to go, and we'll see what happens. But yeah. So before we go into our second break of the show, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. And that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about the Travis Kelce, Andy Reid altercation on the sidelines. I'll give you my thoughts on that. And that is what we will do when we come back from our second break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now talk about the Travis Kelce, Andy Reid altercation. During the break, I just was constantly saying disastrous to myself to make sure to get the word right, because I really just butchered how, saying the word. But listen, it happens. It happens. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this because I know people, were making memes out of it, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I lost respect for Travis Kelce after that," and they both spoke upon it. Travis Kelce said I was telling him how much I love him, which is not true, and I'm curious to see if they're going to release the audio of what was said. Now, Andy Reid said it was something that just is keeping him young. And this is not the first time that something like this has happened, because earlier in the year, and this was on Christmas when Kelce threw his helmet, and it just went flying. Someone was bringing the helmet back to Kelce when they were about to go back on the field, and Andy Reid stopped him, and they were like, "No, don't give him back his helmet." So let's not pretend like Travis Kelce hasn't been, if you even want to call that being disciplined before. But yeah, Andy Reid basically said he keeps me young. It tests that hip out. He caught me off balance. Normally I give him a little, but I didn't have any feet under me. Yeah, because I didn't realize until I saw I first saw when I was watching the game live, but I didn't realize watching it again that Andy Reid almost fell to the ground. So imagine if Andy Reid did end up falling, that would have been really bad. But this all happened because, you have the big play to McCole Hardman, which again I thought was going to get intercepted, but it didn't. And then literally right after that, Pacheco fumbles, and Kelce was not on the field for the play. So I think he was just saying you got to have me on the field, give me the ball, And Kelce really didn't do much in the first half. Then in the second half, completely different. But yeah, he really just got in Andy Reid's face, and he was really upset, and he almost knocked over his coach. But I mean, on both sides, both from Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, I mean, it's water under the bridge at this point. I mean, it's not really a big deal. But I mean, the reaction on social media, it's like, oh, I lost so much respect for Kelsey. He's got anger issues and honestly, yeah. I mean, it's not the first time Kelsey is, again, not the first time he's acted out. There was another time last year he fumbled against the Titans and he threw his helmet. Also, he got ejected from a game back in, I think it was 2016 against the Jaguars. That was another time I could think of. So yeah, it's not the first time, but yeah, I mean, listen, like Andy Reid says it's not a big deal, so I think shouldn't we all say, yeah, it's not a big deal? And again, it's the Super Bowl. This is the biggest game of the year, and I guess yeah, maybe Travis Kelce could lose it a little bit on the sidelines. So I can't really be like, oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess when it comes to playing in the biggest game of the year, yeah, you're gonna be a little emotional, especially when you got a big play that happens that sets up your team possibly scoring, and then you got Pacheco fumbling, and you're not on the field for that play. So yeah, I mean, I understand his frustration, but I mean, yeah, you almost took out your coach. Andy Reid almost ended up on the ground. But yeah, it's just the reaction was just and that people lost respect for him. I mean, you go back to the AFC Championship game with the Justin Tucker situation. I mean, he just throws his equipment, into the end zone. Yeah, I mean, again, both sides said it's not a big deal, but yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's a little childish. I mean, like, why are you doing that? But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I think people are just kind of sick of the whole Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing. That's the other thing, too. So everybody's just looking for something to just complain about. And this is, again, another thing. But that's what happens in the age of social media. You are literally under this microscope. And you got to be careful with what you do and what you say. I mean, that goes for myself and, everybody else that has a platform. Well, obviously, there's people that have, much bigger platforms. So they're under an even bigger microscope, like Travis Kelce. But yeah, I mean, you got to watch what you do, what you say, because, yeah, you're going to be critiqued on everything. And this is one of those things. But yeah, I mean, there's that side to it where, like, what if Andy Reid falls and gets hurt? Like, that's on you. Because yeah, he came out of nowhere. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's again, it's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest game of the year, and you're not out on the field for that play. So I understand the frustration, but yeah, I mean, I understand why people are saying you don't want to show your coach up like that. Because yeah, that's your coach, like, but I mean, I don't think Andy Reid's a pushover. Because again, earlier in the season, what happened on Christmas? Kelce throws his helmet. Andy Reid's like, do not give him his helmet back. But listen, at the end of the day, it's it seems like it's water under the bridge, and Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl anyways. So and that play, and listen, the play that Kelce missed where Pacheco fumbled, it didn't have any impact. 49ers didn't do anything with the ball, right? I don't think they scored on that play. I mean, on that drive. Check back. I'll actually check quickly. But yeah, it's not like it really led to anything. It's not like it was like a scoop and score. Now, if it was a scoop and score, yeah, then I could see why you'd be red hot. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, no, it didn't lead to anything. The Niners punted after that. So, but you know what? I get it. You want to be on the field, and for some reason he wasn't. And yeah, he voiced his frustration by almost, you know, knocking his coach over. But yeah, again, like it just all goes back to, you know, in this age now where you're judged by whatever people can see everything, essentially. You know, and I'm really curious to see if they are going to end up releasing the audio for that, but I don't know if they will. But you know what? Kelsey and Andy Reid have been through many battles together over the years. Um, you know, it's they're a family essentially. You know, and you know, obviously, you know, things are gonna happen, and you know, did a little more than voice his frustration by, you know, like I said, almost knocking him over, but yeah, that's the kind of relationship they have. And, you know, and I understand people saying, you know, him getting really upset and, you know, looks like, yeah, it might have some anger problems, which, you know, yeah, it doesn't look good, but, again, you're playing, like, all that adrenaline, you're playing you're playing in the biggest game of the year. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna be fired up. I mean, look at Kelsey after they won. Everybody's, you know, clowning him for, like, you know, the Viva Las Vegas, which I thought was funny, but I get it. I think it's just it's again just looking for another thing to just not like the Chiefs, because that's what the Chiefs have become now, is the new villain. And you know, they'll look at Kelsey and his behavior. They'll talk about him being childish and just whatever. I get it. You know, and a lot of people are tired of seeing this team succeed. But listen, they're not going anywhere. You know, they're gonna try to run it back next year. And you know, like I talked about in the last segment, there are teams that can dethrone them, but will they be able to? I don't know. I don't know. So, you know, but again, I mean, with both of these guys, I mean, again, not a big deal. You know, it's again not something you want to see, because again, like, Kelsey knocks over Andy Reid. I mean, that's on live TV in the Super Bowl. I mean, that looks really bad. And I don't even think, but also, you even now again, this is from what I see. When he goes up to Andy Reid looks like he's about to fall over. Kelsey had like his arm around him, or like was grabbing him. So, you know, it's not like, you know, he was. I guess he was trying to prevent him from falling. If you see that, I don't think anyone's really talked about that, but at least that's from the angle that, you know, from what I see. But yeah, you know, it's again not something you want to see, but you know, it's just, you're playing for the Super Bowl, you know. And actually, from what I saw, so I saw this TikTok and of this podcast, and they were saying that, you know, if you win the Super Bowl, it's they said it was an ick. I forget the name of the podcast, but they were saying, yeah, they were saying winning the Super, like being the best is like not something that's not good. I'm like, really? So the Super Bowl, which is like the biggest thing, one of the biggest things that you can win, not just in sports but in life, like really, hoisting that Lombardi Trophy, and you're saying that's not good? It makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I just wanted to, because that was a TikTok I saw last night. I'm like, really? So winning the Super Bowl is not a good thing? I don't know. But I hope someone that's watching this knows what I'm talking about, because I was very confused as to why that was an opinion, but whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about this whole Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey altercation, if you want to call it that. I think it's gotten a little bit blown out of proportion, proportion. But again, I understand, people's, complaints about it. And yeah, again, not something you want to see, but yeah, I mean, I get Kelsey's frustration. Just wish it didn't look like he was trying to knock over his coach on the sideline. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we will talk about the free agent class for this year. Who the top free agents, and that'll be it for the show for today. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about the upcoming free agents for this offseason, because now we are, in the offseason, and got to figure out some stuff to talk about, because, free agency is going to be huge, where people can go, where, maybe, also, who could get franchise tagged as well. Because I know the Bengals, it looks like they're going to franchise tag T. Higgins, because I know that was someone that, could have been a top free agent, but might get franchise tagged by the Bengals. So, yeah, that's another thing. We'll talk about who gets franchise tagged, things like that. Also, again, the draft's coming up in a couple of months, or in a few months, so, that's something else. Talk about some mock drafts that I see, things like that. So, also, I did see something that apparently there is a possibility, and I think Adam Schefter said this, or reported this, that that the Bears could keep the number 1 overall pick, take a quarterback, and also keep Justin Fields. So we'll see if that ends up happening, but that would be crazy if that ends up happening. Which I don't think that's the smart thing to do. I think you have to either you get rid of the number 1 overall pick. Well, I don't want to say get rid of, but you trade it away and get a bunch of assets, or you trade Justin Fields and reset that clock with the rookie quarterback deal. But we'll see. So yeah, when it comes to the free agents, so I'm on ProFootballFocus.com, and it has a bunch of it has the free agent class. So they ranked them. So Chris Jones is at number 1. He was looking for a new deal, ended up just under the, I think it was right. It was just the franchise tag. They put him under the franchise tag this year. Obviously he's going to be looking for a big deal. I mean, he's the anchor of that Chiefs defense. And we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. You also have Kirk Cousins, which again, he's coming off of that Achilles injury, and you still got the Vikings having to deal with Justin Jefferson and his contract situation, because he's another guy that wants to get paid. Another big time receiver that wants we talked about Brandon Ayuk before, but Justin Jefferson is, when he's healthy, is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And the Vikings are going to want to make sure that they keep him. And he did express his desire, at least from what I saw, that he wants Kirk Cousins to be back. And yeah, I mean they've been a good pair together. And it was just unfortunate that injuries kind of derailed the Vikings season because if Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins don't get hurt, where did the Vikings end up? But yeah, so Kirk Cousins again, another guy that's on the list here. You got the edge rusher for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen, or as many people like to call him, the other Josh Allen, which he does not like to be called that. Listen, the Giants could have got him when they drafted Daniel Jones. I know I keep bringing up the Giants, but yeah, maybe if he's a free agent, they can go get him. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. T. Higgins is on here, but again, I said the Bengals looks like they're gonna franchise tag him. You also got the edge rusher for the Carolina Panthers, Brian Burns. Listen, if you're a team that needs, pass rushers, not a bad person to try to get. I mean, we'll see. Do the Panthers end up keeping him? I mean, I think he's going to want to get out of Carolina after the season they had. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the Panthers. Not coming off of a bad season. And he's been a guy that's been there for a while. But I think he's going to want to change the scenery, especially with what happened this year. But we'll see. Then you got for the Baltimore Ravens, Justin Matabuke. Hope I pronounced that right. I think I got that. Matabuke. Another defensive lineman. Christian Wilkins of the Dolphins. He was looking to get an extension from the Dolphins before the 2023 season, but that ended up not happening. Then you also have Antoine Winfield Jr., one of the many Buccaneers free agents. You also have Levante David, Mike Evans, Devin White, Baker Mayfield. So we'll see what the Buccaneers do. I mean, I'm guessing they're going to franchise tag, one of these guys that they have. And they are working on trying to, retain Baker Mayfield, retaining Mike Evans. And I hope they do. I really hope Tampa, runs it back with this team and, again, surrounds it with more talent because they were still dealing with the after effects of, I think, because their cap situation wasn't the best going into this year, or, well, going into the 2023 season because now we're in, 2024. But now it's better. So we'll see, how they handle this free agency and who they can bring back. You got Jalen Johnson of the Chicago Bears, corner, also a free agent. There's a lot of teams that need corners. So, we'll see where he could possibly end up. You also have L'Jarius Sneed of the Kansas City Chiefs, had a great season. We'll see if the Chiefs are able to retain him or if he ends up going elsewhere. Again, maybe could be a franchise tag. Well, actually, we'll see. Well, they might do that with Chris Jones. So, again, we'll just have to wait and see. Michael Pittman of the Colts. Yeah, wide receiver. Team that needs a wide receiver. There's definitely teams out there that need one. So, unless the Colts try to retain him. You also got Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. Mike Evans, of course, we talked about. Tyron Smith of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's been an anchor on that defense. On that offensive line for a long time. I remember, that 2014 offensive line and 2016. That era of, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. They were dominant, from left to right. With him, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. Who am I missing? Yeah, then there was also Ronald Leary and Doug Free. But yeah, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. Those were like the top guys. Because I know, I think Doug Free left. Well, both of them left. Doug Free left, and Ronald Leary left as well. And then they drafted La'el Collins, and then that didn't really work out. But yeah, that era was they had a great offensive line, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. But a problem with Tyron Smith is injuries. So, but yeah, so we'll see where he ends up possibly. Kendall Fuller, corner for the Commanders. Leonard Williams of the Seahawks. Obviously he was traded to the Seahawks from the Giants, so we'll see if he ends up getting paid elsewhere. Marquise Brown of the Cardinals. Bryce Huff, edge rusher for the Jets. DJ Reader of the Bengals. Dealt with injuries this year. Good stop in the run. Kyle Duggar of the Patriots. Good player on their defense. Cameron Curl, safety for the Commanders. Trent Brown, Patriots, tackle. Kevin Dotson of the Rams, guard, right? Yeah, and then you got Ridley as well. I mean, the Jaguars, I think, are going to try to retain him. So we'll see what happens there. Mike Onwenu for the Patriots, tackle. Awuzie for the Bengals. Yeah, I'm kind of just running through the free agency. I don't know why it's like... also there's Robert Hunt of the Dolphins, a guard. Wouldn't mind the Giants trying to maybe... I know I keep bringing up the Giants, but it's just that they need offensive line help. You also got Chase Young, so we'll see if the 49ers end up bringing him back. I don't know if they will. Oh, yeah. Why do they have Saquon Barkley at 29? But, yeah, I mean, there's Saquon Barkley. There's Josh Jacobs. We'll see where they end up. I know that the Chargers have a... I know Harbaugh, I think, was going to make a push to try to get Barkley if, they don't retain Eckler. I know because I know when I was talking with TJ, when we had him on the show last week, we went over, like, some of the teams that Saquon could possibly go to. Apologize for my dog barking. Of course, it happens towards the end of the show. But I know that, so yeah, there's the Ravens I saw, the Chargers, also the Texans too. I think the Texans would be an amazing fit, just because that's a team that that needs a better running game. I mean, Singletary did a nice job. Dameon Pierce kind of took a step back. So yeah, I think that would be a great fit for Barkley if he ended up on the Texans. We'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs, because Zamir White did a nice job filling in for him whenever he got hurt. You also have Derrick Henry as well that's listed. Interesting to see where he ends up. I know some people are saying the Cowboys, which, yeah, I mean, listen, you pair him with Tony Pollard, I think that would be a solid combination. You also got Kevin Zeitler as well, the guard for the Ravens. Again, can never have too many. Again, former Giant. Kind of wish he didn't leave, but they let him go. You also have Stephon Gilmore, the Cowboys, getting up there in age, but again, team that might need corner help. But yeah, I mean, I could run through this whole list, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so again, this is something that we're going to talk about a lot is free agency, and we'll see who ends up getting franchise tag, things like that. That'll be within the coming months, and obviously the draft coming up as well, because if teams don't address some of their needs in free agency, you also have the draft to fall back on as well. But you also got to hit on the picks. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it with the show for today. Obviously, you got to get a little creative with coming up with some topics, but still some Super Bowl stuff, Super Bowl reactions to talk about. I know the Brandon Ayuk thing is kind of a big thing, just because, I mean, that's a major piece of the 49ers, and if the 49ers had to get rid of him because he doesn't want to be there anymore, I mean, that's a big loss. But they're going to try to work on retaining him, and we'll just have to see. We'll have to see how that all unfolds. And again, talking about who can dethrone the Chiefs. Again, the easy answer is no. There's nobody, because the Chiefs have beaten everybody. But you never know. It's different year to year. You don't know you really don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, again, look at how the Chiefs performed this year. I mean, did we really think that they were gonna make it back to the Super Bowl? No, I honestly didn't. Especially with what happened on Christmas, I thought, yeah, they're not making it back to the Super Bowl. But they like I keep saying, they flipped that switch, and they won yet again. So we'll see what happens next year. I mean, again, the Kelsey Reed situation. I mean, yeah. You don't want to see that, but at the same time, it's water under the bridge. They both. Andy Reid said it wasn't a big deal, but yeah. And then of course, the free agent class, ton of free agents. All it's going to be is speculation on where a lot of these guys are going to end up. So, but yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.